There you go. Yeah, and it's really, really awesome to see everyone, and hopefully we have a good turnout. My name is uh, Gina Fiorelli. I am the program coordinator for the Climate Literacy and Energy Awareness Network. We are a project of um, the Education Outreach team at uh, Ceres, which is the Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences, based in Boulder, Colorado. So we, of course, are being led today by my colleague Alicia Christensen, who has spent a lot of time and energy researching and putting together amazing resources about climate change and mental health, which will be very timely around Earth Day this year. So as we get started, Alicia is going to share some slides. I will be monitoring the chat the entire time, and so feel free to add questions there. Alicia, I believe will we have time for questions at the end, hopefully? Or is that
Yeah, we should have a few minutes. Yeah.
okay? We might be. There's probably a lot here, so we might be tight on time. But let's put questions in the chat. And yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Excuse me. Thanks, Gina. Yes, as Gina mentioned, I have taken an interest over the, I don't know, past decade or so, really into how to integrate more social emotional skills into a lot of the work that we in science do, because there are a lot of topics and opportunities that lend themselves, I think, really well to helping students develop some of those skills, and looking more at the whole child, or whole youth, I should say. I work for the Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences, like Gina, and I support CLEAN, as well as some other projects. And my background is in informal science education. I've worked at a lot of zoos and aquariums, and looked at things like how to build empathy in youth for animals and wildlife and stuff like that. So I'm excited to talk with you all today. And one of the things that we had been hearing a lot from educators in the CLEAN network was that there was a tremendous need for knowing, I think, both strategies for how to deal with some of the emotions related to climate change, like anxiety and anger and overwhelm, and for both our own care practices and also for the youth that we serve. And so we decided to put together some resources on CLEAN that specifically address the climate mental health, and how to teach climate change towards empowerment and move beyond the doom and gloom of climate change that's definitely out there these days. And so we developed a website with a bunch of resources, and we also developed some short, brief activities that an instructor could use to complement a unit or lesson on climate change. And so today we're going to introduce you to some of the strategies that can be used, and show you a little bit about the resources. And then hopefully we're going to practice some of these activities, so you'll have an opportunity to go through them and know how to facilitate a few of them with your students. We would love to see you use these with your students. We're still actually looking for a couple teachers to test these activities out in their classroom. We can give you a $25 gift card for each activity you test. The activities run from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. And give us feedback for. So reach out to me if you're interested in doing that. I will, you'll have my email address at the end of the webinar today. So I'm not sure how familiar you all are with CLEAN, because we advertise this out to a bunch of people outside of our CLEAN network too. So just a little bit of background about CLEAN. The Climate, Energy, and Awareness network, sorry. And it's we have over 700 instructor resources on our website that you can peruse through a database. And these include lesson plans and videos and data simulations. So there's a lot of great resources on there. They're also peer reviewed by other teachers and also reviewed by scientists for their accuracy. So hopefully you should know that everything on the website is high quality. And we also have other things on our website, webinars like this that we provide professional development for. And we have a vibrant network too. If you are not familiar with Clean, there are also weekly calls that you can join to talk more about climate and energy education. So I think Gina maybe put the link to the climate mental health pages, our new climate mental health pages in the chat. And so you're welcome to go look through those as I kind of go through the slideshow today. But you know, the reason, another reason, other from just hearing from so many teachers that they wanted to know how to engage their youth with this, another reason why this is a really important topic is because it is really affecting our youth. There was a recent survey that looked at over 10,000 youth across the world, and these are the emotions that they identified that youth are feeling about climate change. You know, and there's some pretty striking things in here. Some of the ones that really struck me are 4 out of 10 are hesitant to have children, you know, because of climate change. And you know, that 60% are very or extremely worried about climate change. Like that's a really big number. This is definitely affecting our youth. So what you'll find on our website are a list of strategies. We've kind of corralled all of these strategies into kind of some super strategies, I guess. The self-care, integrating climate justice, listening and validating feelings, encouraging and taking action, joining and creating community and connection, incorporating a trauma-informed approach, using social, emotional, and positive coping skills, moving through grief, and cultivating hope and resilience. And there's a lot of kind of sub-strategies under these strategies. And then what you'll find if you look at the website is there are resources from all over the web that are aligned kind of with each of these strategies. So if there are specific strategies you want to try with your students, you can go to those resources on our website. They may be videos, they may be lesson plans, they may be websites, you know, for students to look at and explore that have stories of you know, students kind of other youth having to work through some of these emotions. And this is also, this infographic here is also a poster, 11 by 17 poster that you can print out if you would like to and hang up in your classroom. So we're going to start off today with an activity to think about where you're at on the climate grief scale. So some activities that are great for kind of introductory activities before a lesson starts are really getting students to understand and identify the emotions that they have related to climate change. So I'll let you kind of read this over, and then we're gonna split you up into groups of 3 for about 5 minutes, and just ask you to think about and talk a little bit about where you are on this scale, you know, and what is it that you need from others, that you need from yourself to be able to accept and fully feel the stage you are in. One thing that I really like about this climate grief scale too is that it actually it includes people that, you know, tend to oppose climate action, and or who are angry towards the people and the systems that cause the climate crisis. So and that also includes, I think, people that kind of ignore the consequences, or evidence out of fear of the implications. So I feel like it's not just aimed at those that support efforts to help with climate change, but it also recognizes the whole span of emotions that students may have out there. Okay, Gina.
So breakout rooms are open. Yeah, feel free to hit join. We'll have a few minutes to talk in there. Folks are joining, okay.
Hi, I'm still not in a breakout room.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
is it
my-
okay? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say my connection is very unstable, so I get dropped several times. So I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Alicia, would it be better to, is it okay if we have a group of 2?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
And
wait.
also room 9 only has 2 people in it.
Oh, yep, you're right. All right.
And so does room 5.
Let's send folks out.
I might walk to where I think. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Oops, we actually ended up
There we
with
go.
one group
Okay,
of
now
4,
everyone
but
breakout rooms. Okay.
people just joined as I opened the breakout rooms. Like,
Yeah, no, I
4
saw
people
that.
joined, and I was like, oh, So.
Great job.
panic. I think that, oh, it looks like Patrick went into the breakout
Oh, I
room.
do have the option to broadcast. Okay.
Okay, good. Did Patrick stay? Let's see his name in here.
Oh no, I don't see Patrick.
Okay, I think he might have left. He said he messaged me and said I can't stay long, but it looks like things are going well. Need any support?
Okay.
And I was just typing a message that said we're fine. So
Great. Okay.
good. Oops. Well, I actually did make a group of 4, but oh well. That wasn't too bad. So how long did you say they have?
I think 5 minutes. Hey, welcome back, everyone. I know that was quick and short. One thing I want to say too is that, you know, if anything is triggering today that we talk about, like these conversations can be emotional and difficult. And so if anything is triggering, I mean, feel free to just excuse yourself, you know, or if you need to leave, like no feelings hurt here. And you know, sometimes just if you need to stand up, move around, if that helps. One thing that's really important, I think, when doing any of these activities with students is to provide that sense of agency and choice for students as to if they want to participate in these activities. And that's something I actually should have shared at the beginning of this activity. You know, for those of you that may not have wanted to or felt comfortable with participating. So just, I would love to hear from a couple people. How did that feel?
I think it was nice that similar experiences with other people where you might feel like it sort of does away with some people who are feeling angry about it on certain day, and other days that you're feeling a bit like depressy about, and other days you're like, oh, okay, look, the world's a bit like this, we can take steps. So it's not just one or the other. It tends to flow through a couple different ones on any given day.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I definitely know that I shift between many of these. Anyone else like to share?
Yeah, in our group, we started talking a little bit about, distinguishing between how we feel and how other people that are around us are feeling, and how that affects how we're feeling on any particular day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, really great point. So, like I said, it helping to identify, what your emotions really are is kind of a big first step with figuring out how to process and deal with some of these emotions. As educators who are involving youth in conversations and action and the science around climate change, it can get very tiring for us because we're bringing our own emotions to this, and also, trying to help students navigate through their own emotions too. So, self-care is something that's really important, and one of the first things I think, as instructors working with youth, should be really considered. And so I would love to hear from the group what kind of self-care strategies you all use to make sure that you're okay, and that you're not getting burned out, that you're nourishing yourself, that you're getting help from others, etc. So Gina's going to put a Jamboard link in the chat. And just if you feel up to it, I'd love to have you share out some self-care strategies that you use, and we can hopefully give each other some ideas about how to avoid some of that burnout. Great exercise. Yeah, that's one I use a lot. And going outside can be very, very restorative. I feel like meditations, doing crafts or art, being creative. Realize it's never all going to get done. Yeah, that's really important. It can get so overwhelming when we think about the size of the problem, and same thing, for students too. Like when you think about, well, I need to be doing all this, I need to be recycling, and I need to be not using the car as much, and I need to be turning off the lights, and I need to be, and you just keep thinking about all these things that you need to do, and it can get very overwhelming. So focusing, on one or two things that you can do really well to help the environment or help with climate change can be really helpful. Educating self, great. Yeah, hopeful. I think hope is super important with this, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. Positive stories about humanity. Yes, one thing you'll find in the resources is there's a lot of links to people who are doing advocacy and positive stories of people making a difference. You'll find some of those actually in the Clean collection as well, and those are great stories to share with students and look at yourself. Yes, using your sick days. I like that. I'm a great supporter of that. It's really important to take time for yourself. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. You can continue to add to this if you'd like as I talk. Hopefully, maybe you found some ideas or actions here that you could consider in your self-care that you haven't considered before. And then I'm going to just spend a few minutes here talking about some of the strategies that you'll find on our website with these associated resources. So, people from historically marginalized communities disproportionately experience the impacts of climate change, and as a result, are likely to also consider or have some disproportionate impacts of climate change related to their mental health as well. And so that's something to just be aware of and keep in mind. And I'm sure many on this call, are aware that structural racism and other forms of oppression have placed some groups in higher risk environments, including risks from natural hazards, air pollution, hotter temperatures, etc. So in light of this, climate justice should really be centered in every discussion about climate change, including exploration of links between climate change and mental health. One of the first strategies we put in here is actually listen. And we list that before take action, because a lot of youth out there don't feel like leadership or adults are listening to them, and truly listening without trying to solve, inviting all voices to the table, creating a safe environment for sharing, using group norms and restorative practices to set up some of those conversations. In this same survey that I mentioned of the 10,000 youth across the world, many youth feel like their governments don't listen to them. And there's a lot of distress and anger and hopelessness around that feeling. So whenever you can listen with compassion and authentic curiosity, they can really encourage youth to open up and further explore their feelings. And somebody said, I noticed in the chat, somebody had mentioned feeling solidarity. That feeling solidarity is so helpful for realizing that others feel the same way and finding that sense of belongingness, that sense of connection that can really help support those emotions. I'm sure many on this call use this strategy a lot, encouraging and taking action. It is a very strong way, I think, to help any of us process and move through our emotions related to climate change. The feeling that we can do something about it is really helpful. And it's helpful for that action to be local, place-based, personally relevant, helps encourage personal agency, and like I said before, focuses on one small part of the problem instead of the whole thing. It can look a little bit different too at each age group. So in elementary, focusing on their responsibility and how actions and solutions can make a difference, focusing on that actually before you focus on the why. Why are we doing this? And before introducing them to a lot of the impacts of climate change, start with those messages more of responsibility. And as students get older, they will start to ask those questions about and start to become more curious about, why are we doing this? Why is this really important? Why does this matter? Tweens and teens, this is really the great age group to encourage students to lead and take climate action, and especially action with others. Incorporating climate justice and advocacy into the actions. finding ways to say yes to teens, encouraging questions, utilizing teens' strengths in expressing concerns and developing solutions. And joining and creating community and connection kind of goes along with, I think, both the listening to each other and also some of that collective action that I just spoke about. But there are a lot of groups online, in addition to groups in the local community that you and youth can become a part of, and you'll find those resources on our website. But there's a lot of climate cafes all over the country that meet in person or online. There's a resource on there about how to engage, how to start your own climate cafe group, or how students can create their own climate cafe groups. Incorporating trauma-informed approach is really helpful, and a lot of the stuff that we're actually talking about is a trauma-informed approach. But realizing that a lot of these impacts that we're seeing are causing trauma, so thinking about how to integrate these practices while teaching about climate change will reduce the potential for harm and increase the effectiveness of learning. Many of you may know, when you get triggered or you're under a trauma response, it's harder for us to learn because we're more focused on figuring out, how to deal with that trauma response. So learning to recognize trauma and stress-related reactions and potential triggers, creating a safe, caring, and welcoming environment, building trust through transparency, identifying and reinforcing examples of positive peer support, acknowledging strengths, encouraging youth voice and choice, and challenging stereotypes and biases are all trauma-informed responses. Many of you are familiar with ways to support youth social emotional development. I know this has been more of a focus in school in the last decade. And there are multiple ways to support students' self-regulation, positive coping skills, and getting along with others. And reassuring students that it's normal to feel these emotions, whatever those emotions are, even if they're apathetic, even if they are emotions that they say they don't believe in climate change, or they don't believe in the actions that can help with climate change. Helping them understand those are normal feelings to have is really helpful. Encouraging youth to have self-compassion and find balance by giving themselves and others permission to enjoy their lives. And remembering that they can't solve everything all the time. You can't solve everything all the time. Supporting students in tolerating ambiguity around climate topics by encouraging them to ask questions, stay calm and in the moment, try on other perspectives about future possibilities, assess risks, rely on what they do know, use their creativity to explore new ideas, and reflect on what they are grateful for in our world. And there's some resources on the site. You'll notice that there's a lesson plan on there actually that it takes students through an activity to help them tolerate ambiguity more. Other types of self-care, include meditation, breathing exercises, visualizations about a resilient future. So it may not be a visualization about a positive future, because it is important to recognize that, that things are going to change, so that youth feel validated in their concerns, but visualizing more about what a resilient future will look like. What is it going to look like for me to be resilient in this future? And then time in nature, incredibly important too. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about hope. You all learned today about the 5 stages of grief in the first activity. Everyone has different ways of handling stress, anxiety, and loss. And knowing where you and your students are at can help develop empathy for wherever people are in their grief. And be aware, I guess, of the physical feelings that come along with some of these emotions too. Use creativity to focus on what we can do instead of what we have done. So last strategy is hope, and hope and resilience. And hope is a teachable skill, and is a foundational element of resilience. Developing hope can support physical and mental wellness, increase social connection, combat anxiety and depression, and improve the overall quality of life. On the website, there are examples of how to teach hopefulness and a wonderful set of books that encourage hope on the web pages. And there's also a lesson plan about how to, a whole actually set of lessons on how to help students have hope for the future. Spending time in nature tends to develop adults that show pro-environmental behaviors, and also has physical and mental health benefits, including coping with stress and a changing planet. Helping students gain comfort, confidence, and agency in nature promotes both nature connection and also constructive hope. And you can use cognitive behavioral interventions and sustainable well-being practices, like what you see here in this graphic, framing environmental issues, to help students reframe negative thoughts to be more resilient and optimistic. So an example is the thought, all humanity is doomed. Reframe that to the future on this planet will look different from what it looks like right now. These 10 thinking rules can help you reframe how you work with students around climate action, and sharing examples of people caring for the natural world, climate activists, innovations that are really interesting and unique, like the regeneration of soils that can draw down atmospheric carbon, and lots of stories of youth taking action. You'll find lots of links to those stories on our web pages. And finally, I think something that can really help with hope is actually reframing eco-anxiety to eco-empathy or eco-compassion, and thinking about how those word choices can frame students' views of issues. So we're going to try another activity here. This is meant to facilitate discussions among youth and build more solidarity. And so I'm going to ask, we'll break you up into groups of 2 this time, and ask you to, you can talk about each of these questions or both. What have you been feeling lately related to the climate, the environment, activism in the future, and or what makes you angry, scared, or apathetic about the future? The important thing here is for your partner to listen, ask the same question maybe again when you stop talking, thank each other for sharing, and summarize each other's thoughts. And the other side of this that the role the listener can play in this is asking the person, is this thought helping you right now? What is something you can focus on right now that would be helpful? Or is, whatever negative thought you might have, is it 100% true? How can you replace this thought with a more realistic thought? So I'll give you a minute to look at both of these slides here. I'll go back to the previous questions, so you remember again what to talk about with each other. And then here's the questions for the listener to ask of the speaker. And I'll broadcast this too. Gina's gonna, I think, put you to breakout rooms now, and you'll have about 10 minutes to go through and discuss this with a partner.
Folks should be able to join, but let us know if you're having any issues. Okay, looks like we've got some single people. These folks are moving around. Oh.
Would anyone like to share what you talked about?
I hope that Shannon doesn't mind, but I was going to throw out, she made a comment about that she shares with her students how great it is that it is caused, that climate change is mostly caused by anthropogenic causes, because if it's caused by us, then we can change it and we can fix it.
I like
I
that.
just thought that was a nice little spin on it. And then I share with my students, I'm going to start using her wording on that, but I shared the whole thing with the CFCs and the ozone hole, and how, as a world, we came together, we eliminated CFCs, and the ozone hole is starting to heal itself. So we can fix it. It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, great. Did others, I know somebody had mentioned that they started to feel solidarity when you were talking about the grief stages. Did you feel more of that solidarity, talking about these questions too with your partner?
Yeah, I was vented. We both vented.
That's great. Venting is really helpful.
It was good to hear. I mean, it's been great to hear. I wasn't ready to participate. I'm sorry, I have a barking dog. But to hear what other people are also experiencing, but also you may have some lows, but you're also going with the highs. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotions related to all of this, and it's wonderful to hear that there's a lot of hopeful thoughts out there too. Fawn, do you want to share?
Yep. I just got through climate reality leadership core training, and the hopeful thing is that you don't have to even talk climate. Just go out there and talk with the IRA on an induction stove or solar panels or your EV, and talk about resilience in your community and infrastructure with the BIL. And it's just something because we're like both science people. I don't have any time to spend with 30% of America thinks that they don't believe the science. I'm like, you're just going to be facing a lot of stuff. So I move into what can be done. And so I just really felt hopeful with Iron May, because she's with the atmospheric people. They know a lot of good science, and it's global, it's like the planetary stuff. So anyway, I think there's a lot of hopeful things, but you have to get with doing it.
Yeah.
So it's just exciting. And in the teaching, that's why I'm here, because I'm an informal educator, park naturalist. I never had a classroom in my life yet. I was always outside.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing.
Sorry. Ginger, I think, was next.
Well, yeah, I think that's important, Fawn, and I think kind of along those lines, the talking about a lot of the things that we could be doing to be more resilient are things that would dramatically improve our quality of life and beautify, like planting trees. Yes, we need afforestation on a large scale, but also planting trees in our neighborhoods and cities, and doing things that also improve water quality and reduce urban heat island. It could give students real world projects that can improve their neighborhood and be fighting climate impacts at the local level. And again, if you're in a community where you have the deniers, you can just talk about, oh, this is just, this is providing habitat for more birds and bats, and it makes our neighborhood prettier, and it lowers our air conditioning bill because we have shade now, and just reframing it. But I can't remember the lady that spoke first too. One of the things I heard on some podcast was this is the only time in history when we knew what was going to happen if we didn't do something.
Yeah,
Really. I mean, we didn't know COVID was coming. We had hypotheticals about potential pandemics, but the bubonic plague or even World War II, nobody could have predicted what all would have come out of that. And we know without a doubt what can come, and we're seeing it now. So we have a choice. We have concrete things that we know we can do. So whoever said, if we embrace the fact that it is anthropogenic, then that means we can reverse it. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that a lot. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for sharing, whether in the large group or just each other in your breakout rooms. I want to end with one last individual activity just for you to do on your own, and that takes about a minute, and then there will be a minute or so for questions. So and we'll stick around for a while. So this last activity is actually one of my favorites. It's a really quick one to do, and it's great, I think, for after a lesson on climate change or at the end of a unit. So if you feel comfortable, I'd love for you to get comfortable in your chair and close your eyes. And visualize a specific event where you felt less than resourceful, as if you were in a movie theater rewatching the event. And if you can, think of an event where you felt anxious or stressed, maybe about the natural environment or related to climate change. But if you can't think of something like that, then just find a memory of a time when you felt less than resourceful. And rewatch the event in your mind and notice how your body feels. And now I'm going to ask you to imagine changing the submodalities of the rewatch one at a time. So the tempo of this vision, I'd like you to speed it up and then slow it down. And then the lighting and the coloring. Make it dark or light. Change the colors to black and white, blue, yellow, or red tones. Change the sound of the voices or soundtrack. High-pitched and squeaky, low and deep. Zoom in. Make it small like an ant. Zoom way out. And I want you to kind of now notice how your bodies feel different as you're changing the perspective, the sound, the tempo, etc. And as your body feels different, maybe you feel calmer, more settled in your stomach. Imagine floating into the scene and being part of the scene, not just watching, but doing and feeling it. Rewind and play it again, feeling better, letting your body remember what it's like to get through it and feel different. Now imagine taking this more resourceful state to a future world that you are anxious or stressed about. Imagine that future world, but feeling this more resourceful way. And you can open your eyes when you're ready. So we have an upcoming webinar on May 17th, where we're actually going to be doing a screening and live panel of Gen Z mental health climate stories. And we're showing this in partnership with the Climate Mental Health Network. And it's a video of youth sharing some of their stories, and we'll have a live panel including one of the youth on it. And also a couple of folks from the cooperative, one climate scientist from the Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences, and a behavioral psychologist from the Behavioral Institute at CU Boulder. So keep a lookout for that. And also, you know, if you're interested in spreading the word to other teachers about Clean and Clean's resources, email me too. We do look for teacher ambassadors, and we can help pay for your attendance at conferences. So with that, I will open it up to any questions. And thank you all so much for joining me today. I know it was a quick ride through some of those activities. Gina, if you could just share the link to those activities one more time, that would be great in the chat. And I hope you have a calm and restorative rest of your day. My email address is on the screen, but I'll also put it in the chat here.
Thanks, Alicia, for leading an amazing session for us. I think it's very needed. And I see Mary Grace just added a question here about certificates, and we do actually do that. If you email us this at this email, clean@colorado.edu, we can email you a copy of one, and that way you'll have it. But yeah, just follow up with me there, and that's no problem. That goes for everyone that was here. If you'd like a certificate to show that you spent an hour with us today for professional development or any other purposes, that is totally fine. Just email us clean@colorado.edu and we'll follow up.
Any other
Alicia.
Yeah.
My name is Leanne. I just have a quick question. I'm one of the educators over at the National Center for Atmospheric Research, NCAR.
Yeah.
I'm with the School and Public Programs team, and I was curious what your thoughts are, you know, when we get a field trip group in, you know, trying to kind of make that impact in just that short amount of time, right? Versus like maybe being able to do like a whole curriculum with students in an ongoing thing. So kind of your thoughts on more of like the informal education, impact for those students. Cause like, we kind of, the lessons we teach, they come and they do, they'll do an exhibit tour and they'll do, an activity, and we'll really focus on a certain amount of things depending on what they're coming to visit us for. As far as kind of making the biggest impact in that short amount of time, do you have any kind of activities that you've seen to be more successful in that sense versus kind of the long-term ones? Or I guess, I guess maybe, of course, that probably depends on the age group, of course, right? But I don't know, I was just kind of curious on your thoughts of just that real, couple hour group impact.
Yeah. I think this last activity works really well because it's quick and, kind of students can choose whether they want to participate or if they want to just kind of, stand there and think about other things. And then I think the piece around identifying emotions, you don't have to use the grief scale. You can also just have them think about what are their emotions related to climate change, even if they're not sharing with each other. If you don't have time for that, just bringing that up and having them, think about and identify what those emotions are, it can be really helpful. And then, trying to end on a positive note. There's another activity in there that's a kind of another visioning activity that's really quick, and has them vision kind of like what a resilient future would look like. So that's something else to think about. So I think those two pieces are key if you're trying to do something short and quick, is having students kind of really identify what those emotions are, and then ending on some sort of resilient, hopeful note at the end.
Yeah. And I think maybe incorporating that into, because like, we do try to teach, obviously the science behind it, it's just kind of why they're there. But then kind of, I think incorporating those things with it would be, I think, a really good thing.
The other thing I should say is for you as instructors, sharing your own feelings can be really helpful, just so that students realize that, again, other people feel this way, that it's okay for them to feel this way. And you're just bringing awareness to the fact that, you realize this is tough for a lot of students, and that students are dealing with this. And I think just having an adult recognize that, this is an important, these are important feelings, and validating those feelings is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. This was really great. I very much enjoyed the information. I'm looking forward to sharing all this with my team too.
Great. Thanks so much for coming today.
Yeah, this is great.
There's another question. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Hi, I'm Ramnath here.
Okay.
Actually, I just want to know how the students in the field trips, especially when we are taking children to field trips, what kind of tools and some kind of innovative tools or something like that we can provide. Is there any way that we can motivate them towards the climate change and environmental studies?
You were kind of cutting in and out a little bit, like you were louder at certain times than others. So I only heard part of that. It sounded like you were asking about tools for helping to kind of motivate them towards like climate action.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say look at our page around using climate action to engage students. It both talks about how to use that as a strategy to help with students' mental health, but there's also a lot of great resources on there that point youth towards how to engage in action and how to really empower them. On the clean site itself, we have I mentioned we have like over 800 resources on there. And there are a lot, if you just put in climate action or activism even into the search engine, you'll come up with a number of peer-reviewed lessons and resources too around engaging students in climate action. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's a great thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions out there? There's still a few people on the call here. Okay, well, should we sign off and say goodbye, Gina?
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks again, Alicia.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night.
Have a good evening.
Okay, bye.